So the Acolyte, or as I like to call it, the Hackolyte, really has been going through endless backlash from the fans, and rightfully so, based on two trailers that have gotten, of course, ratioed across the board, across all forms of social media. Nothing that we have ever seen before from any Disney Star Wars related project, whether it's a movie or a TV show. Nothing has been ratioed like this on all forms of social media, which is very revealing. It's very telling about how vivid the overall agenda really is, how obvious it is in the Acolyte series by Leslye Headland, by Kathleen Kennedy, and the rest attached to this project, and everything else wrong with Bob Iger's view of what Star Wars needs to become. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. So behind the scenes, there's been a lot of drama happening between Leslye Headland, Kathleen Kennedy, the Disney heads, especially after the Acolyte Season 2 got axed. We talked about this days ago, as well as how Leslye Headland got fired/removed from numerous Star Wars and even Marvel projects and other promotions over at Lucasfilm HQ and what's going on over there. Now, focusing on the Acolyte series, there's a lot of problems going on with the show and how it really is going out of its way to really just shame George Lucas, to really destroy his life's work, essentially, and really just leave it in the dirt and moving on forward. Now, focusing on Headland here, there's a lot of things that she has been saying, there's a lot of things that she has been really pointing the finger at, including the quote-unquote toxic male demographic. However, with both Marvel Studios and Lucasfilm going through Bob Iger's cost-cutting measures, aka his cost-cutting plan, actively, that's already wreaking havoc on various productions, whether it's movies or shows. One major development now has much to do with the Acolyte situation involving showrunner and director Leslye Headland, where she delivered the following after Acolyte Season 2 got axed and her firing from many Star Wars projects. As a damn grown woman who knows more about Star Wars than anyone I know, I think I understand what it means to be a true fan, as opposed to what people consider Star Wars fans today. There definitely is a such thing as a toxic male demographic that is a growing problem in how the studios handle this side of the fandom, especially within Star Wars. I mean, you get this with Marvel too, but in our case with the Acolyte, I think we can come to the conclusion that this toxic part of the fandom is afraid of women and always will be, who show these powerful traits in a story like this, and that bothers them. I think it's about time that we focus on the women more in Star Wars and continue to do so, and it's why I ask any creator, whether you are a writer and director, no matter what your experience is coming to Lucasfilm and Star Wars, that you should really expand female roles to make up for lost time. Of course, you are always going to deal with the toxic side of the community that mostly consists of men that want to stick to George Lucas's format. My main criticism of George was that he never explored female-driven roles to their maximum potential and from a genuine place, and it was all given to the male leads like Luke, Han, Lando. You get the drill. We had so little and so unimportant female characters in both the originals and the prequels compared to the male roles, and that's changing now completely with the Acolyte. We have found a way to reset portions of what fans call George Lucas's Star Wars, and his vision of everything, and it's all going to make sense in the end. I promise you. Look, I have had my issues with Disney, and I really can't comment on where we are going from here. I really wanted to change what it means to be the good guys or the bad guys. And it's going to be such a transformative experience. If fans don't like that, then so be it. One thing Kathy taught me, one rule to stand by, was to, of course, focus on the creator, as in myself, and others that I have worked with, as opposed to the fans. It's the creator's vision and what they want to write on a blank canvas, and that's all that matters, not necessarily the fans. It's why I take so much inspiration from Rian Johnson and what he did with The Last Jedi. Studio interference is a real challenge with every franchise, and we have had a fair share of that in my career, but not so much here thanks to Kathy. I really and basically was able to do whatever I needed to tell my vision and my story, and how the LGBTQ community would be represented in this story. Fans just don't get it. that Star Wars needs to adapt to the modern world in order to evolve and to stay relevant so that we can really embrace inclusion properly. Working with Amanda Stenberg was more than a pleasure, as she is one who considers herself non-binary. We had a great conversation before we wrapped filming on how we could represent the non-binary community in the Star Wars story, and perhaps how that could tie in with the Jedi. Now, guys, before I get to the big conclusion about what Leslye Headland is spewing again, obviously she is emitting her rage with fans that really were quote-unquote loud and opinionated in her point of view, where in reality, as far as I see it, fans were voicing their honest opinion about what the current state of Star Wars is from a passionate point of view. People act a certain way because they want to defend what they're passionate about, what they grew up with, what they love. That's why, and I always say this, I think why the Star Wars backlash is worse than the Marvel backlash in various ways, because Star Wars is so different on its own in isolation. It really is something that you really can't replicate, that you really cannot duplicate at all. You can never replicate George Lucas's Star Wars unless you really have George telling you what to do, what to say, how to do it, how to execute it, and that's all there is to it. With the exception of some projects, I get it, there's always an exception, but looking at Disney's track record, it has been pretty much 90% a disaster. From 2012 until 2024, and don't even get me started with what's going on in 2026 with the Rey Star Wars movie. Alright, that just goes to show you that Kathleen Kennedy does not care, period, about really just telling something fresh and new that could very well bring Star Wars fans together, that could really embrace something entirely different, yet at the same exact time honoring George and keeping him involved in the production. But no, Kathy doesn't want that. So moving on forward here, alright, she goes on to conclude, this is what makes the High Republic so special, is that it gives us an open room to do whatever we want to without any form of a consequence. We are not breaking source material, we are rewriting the rules and the traditions of Star Wars. Well, Leslye Headland, let me say one thing. I think that sounds like it's about the same thing there. You're saying it's not about breaking the rules, but at the same exact time, it's about breaking tradition and breaking the rules of Star Wars. That's essentially, yes, breaking source material. Now look, their defense is always going to be like, oh, well, we just cherry pick from the expanded universe and tell it in our own unique way. That really is breaking source material, right? I mean, when you cherry pick a character like, let's say, for example, Darth Plagueis, if they ever want to do that, and they change his background completely, they change the design of the character completely, that's exactly, breaking source material and what was done in Legends / the EU and not honoring what fans grew up with. But overall, I mean, you really kind of get the idea here of what Leslye Headland is getting so defensive about, and this all comes in the wake of all the drama happening over at Lucasfilm after she was axed from so many projects, after the Acolyte Season 2 kicked the bucket, and it's not looking good in the slightest. This is exactly why they hid this trailer, the first one at that released weeks ago, for almost an entire year. Just think about that for a second. So overall, guys, drop a comment below, fill me in below in the comments what you all have to say about this, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.